One of the most important things about Coach Carrill was that he forced you to look at who you are as a person and how that reflected in how you played basketball. I was 17 years old. I went to visit Princeton, and he took me out on the center of the court and said that when you step inside of this rectangle, it's going to reveal who you are as a person. And the choices that you have are to accept all of your flaws and just live with those, or to sort of look in the mirror and say, okay, these are the things I'm not good at, and I'm going to fix them. But he also made it clear if you weren't the kind of person that was willing to fix them, you weren't going to play for him. So to deal with that as a 17-year-old and have to face that and understand that's how you have to approach your basketball life, it forces you to realize that those are the kind of things that you have to do in life to be successful. So he's someone that allows you to be a great basketball player and understand the game at a high level, but he also gives you an opportunity to understand what you have to do to be successful once you finish playing basketball. So he is one of the most important people in terms of shaping my career. The team building process for us is really important, and I'm really excited about it. And we laid this out last summer in terms of what we wanted this team to be about, that we wanted to build it the right way from the ground up, not try to swing for the fences, build a culture that's about accountability and a defensive-oriented culture. And I think we've been true to the way we wanted to build this team and have been doing it step by step. We're fortunate that we have a player like Kristaps that's part of our group and was one of the guys that players want to play with. Kristaps. Every coach that we interviewed was really intrigued by this job because they wanted the opportunity to coach Kristaps. So we think we're building the right way, building through the draft, building through our youth. And with Fizdale as our coach, we think we have a guy that understands how to get the most out of players and hold them accountable and get the best out of them. And when we do that, we would develop a team over time that will be a team that can compete for a championship. For us, the combine, the more important part of it are the things that happen away from the gym. We have a chance to meet with 20 players over the course of 2.5 days, spend a half hour with each one of them, get a chance to let them know a little bit about our organization, how we view the game, how we view what we're trying to do, but also allows us to learn who they are as people. And it's a short period of time, but it gives you a little window into who a player is in a very sort of comfortable environment. So that part is really important. The testing that takes place during the combine that the medical staff does, those things are really important. And we watch the basketball stuff, but we've seen these guys play as players before, so that's not something that is overly important. But the interviews are important, and then once we get to bringing guys into New York, it's even better because we have 2 to 3 days to spend more time with them, getting more in depth on who they are as basketball players, who they are as people, understand more about their family, because all those things are important as we try to build a team and build guys that are about winning and can fit into the group that we're trying to create here with the Knicks. This is a tough life to live as an NBA player with all the distractions off the court, and you need people around the team and players on the team that are pretty grounded in who they are as people, and you want a group of guys that can work together and function together both on the court and off the court, because an NBA season is a grind, and the players live with each other, the executives and the coaches, we see each other as much as we see our family. So this is really your family, and it's really important to have people that you enjoy being around, that are all about the same thing and committed at the same levels to creating a winning basketball environment. The mix between what your eyes tell you and the data is really important, because at the end of the day, we're in a people sport, we're in a people business, and people, you can't predict everything that they do. And you can't predict the connectedness or the interconnectivity between players and how they interact with each other. And those are things that are critical to success. So the data is important, but also the people dynamics are important, and we can't lose track of that. Using social media and looking at social media, obviously, we look at the social media activity of players and potential players. You know, in today's day and age, that by the time a guy makes himself committed for the NBA draft, usually his social media account is completely scrubbed, so you're not going to find any negative things there. But you know, sometimes it gives you an insight into how the player thinks about things. But at the end of the day, we're dealing with young men who are 19 or 20 and they're kids, and you have to accept that some of the things aren't necessarily a reflection on who they will be moving forward. So we pay attention to it and look to it. And the more important part of social media is educating guys about the positive things, but also the pitfalls of branding and social media as you move into this world of being an NCAA player or college player with a certain amount of popularity, but it takes it on a totally different level when you come to our league. So trying to get guys ready for that and understand sort of both the positive attributes and also the pitfalls of your social media activity. Well, obviously it's an exciting night, and you spent months and months trying to anticipate what you think other teams are going to do. But the most important aspect of draft night is to know what you want and have a clear idea of how you rank the players that are available, and make sure that as a group you have a consensus that this is our ranking of players. These are the guys that we're going after, and this is how we see them ranked against each other. And if you approach it sort of with that rigor, then there are not as many surprises in draft night. Or if there are surprises, you're ready to deal with them. There's not a lot of questioning. I guess the biggest sort of drama that comes about is when teams start calling you about trades, and it may force you to think about something that you didn't anticipate when they start talking about, would you take this player to move down, or would you do this to move up? Occasionally that kind of stuff happens in the heat of the moment. But again, even in that case, most of those things are discussed pretty far in advance of the draft. So you have a list of possibilities that you're prepared for, and it's about if you decide you want to execute on something, or the other team decides they're interested in executing on something, then you have some decision making. But most of the time, you've thought about those things in advance. My most interesting scouting trip, or most hectic scouting trip, was actually when we were scouting Kristaps. I remember I left to go to Istanbul to watch a player play, and so on a Thursday I arrived in Istanbul, went to a game to watch him play that evening, and then after the game I had dinner with he and his agent. The next morning I left to go to Paris to meet with a player, to watch a player that we had drafted in a prior year. I watched him play and had dinner with him and his agent after that game. The next morning I flew to Barcelona, and that's where I saw Kristaps Porzingis play in Barcelona. So that was a great opportunity to see him and Willie Hernangomez play. Following that game, the next morning I flew to Milan to see a player that we were thinking about bringing to Summer League in Milan. Met with him and his agent that night, and the following day I took a day off because I wanted to at least say I'm in Europe for 4 or 5 days. I want one day where I can walk around. So I walked around Milan, and the next morning I took a flight back to New York, and we had a 4,000 person season ticket holder forum that I went to that night after I returned. So that was clearly one of my most hectic scouting trips.